So, hello there, Paul-Folkert.
Hi. Hi. Hi, Dude.
So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, this is basically a bit of a spontaneous little interview of essentially someone who's made a radio globe. And for the record, we don't know each other. We haven't even spoken to each other before, apart from 5 minutes, just mic checking and stuff just now. But I thought it'd be really cool if you could just say a little bit about yourself and also what inspired you to take a look at the project.
Yes, I'm Paul-Folkert, 36 years old. I'm working as a handyman, basically. My job is to fix everything that's broken or build new stuff like kitchens or bathrooms or anything. But I work for a foundation that helps people that need to reintegrate in society, and they have social workers there, and they help those people to get their life back on track. And they have 11 buildings, and they need maintenance, and yeah, that's my job.
Wow.
And I've always from a young age been really interested in technical stuff, I made little things like radios and just something with sensors that switch on your light when it's dark outside, etc. So I've always been into techniques, and I've worked also a very long time in the theater as a theater technician. I came across this project on a Dutch website, I'm from the Netherlands, then somebody posted a link, because I only saw the video of it, and then somebody else in the comments posted the link about the instructables, how to make it, and I was like, oh cool, let's take a look. And I took a look and found it really interesting. I said to my wife, I want to make this at some point. It doesn't have to be now, but maybe in a few months or maybe in a year or so, I said. But I kept on reading that week through the website, and I got more and more excited about it, actually.
So you mean you kind of kept bouncing back to it and having a I don't know, maybe I can do it.
Yeah. And I didn't have a 3D printer, but I knew my neighbor across the street had one, and
wow.
We're good friends. So he said,
that's so nice.
you can borrow mine. And for the rest, I just was quite familiar with soldering and electronics, and a bit of coding is also not a strange thing to me. So I was like, okay, maybe I can start learning to 3D print. And it turned out the 3D printer of my neighbor was broken, so I was like,
oh
okay.
No, so you had to repair that. Maybe they knew.
No, I actually bought a secondhand one, and I love those kind of things. I'd never 3D printed something before, but I really get into it then. And then I bought an Ender 3, and there's a lot to find about those printers online, and I tuned it all the way around. It became the project within the project. It took a few weeks before I tuned it to the max. I changed the main board, made it direct drive, and this is like,
wow. Yeah, I think you took it even further than me, and that genuinely I have a little printer which is quite a small bed, about this size, and I've had that for years. So it's not that I'm new to 3D printing, but I'm just so impressed with also the Ender 3, as I said, for like $200. it just gets it done with relatively little stress. So yeah, for me, that was, I had to figure out how to use that and build it and assemble it whilst also designing the project. But the whole reason for needing a new printer was that you can appreciate most globes, you know, aren't that small, and also it'd be silly to make one that small. So I realized that we might have actually ended up building a whole globe. And then this is going to sound ridiculous, but it dawned on me that you wouldn't be able to read the locations of the cities because the 3D printing isn't good enough. So I was like, oh, right. Well, actually, I should just buy a globe, shouldn't I? Because that makes sense. So that was a very brief flirtation with the idea of printing this very funky geometric globe with all the sort of outlines in different colors, which would be possible because you can get ones with 2 nozzles. So we were thinking we could do it in 2-tone, but in the end it was just like, this is just epic and it doesn't really add that much benefit. It's just a gimmick. So we threw it out, but nonetheless having a decent sized 3D printer is certainly cool. But I guess sort of back to you and your journey, it sounds like you know, I kind of didn't prompt you at all in saying this, but I'm so happy that it played out this way for you, because I genuinely tried to put a lot of detail in the project so that it would be like a primer in how to use 3D printing in a meaningful way. So I'm so pleased that effectively.
Yeah, it worked. No, yeah, it was so fun. Like the printer just worked out of the box. I bought it secondhand, so it was already assembled, and I printed a few upgrades for the printer itself, etc. And then then you can print those 3D benchies to check the flaws, etc. And I was like, okay, I still have a few flaws, so I tried to upgrade it a bit, and it was really fun. And I'm also not afraid of those kind of things. So, and then I just go on till it's near perfect, or like that is up to my standards. I'm quite a perfectionist, I would say.
So how did you find, I should also give a shout out to my partner in crime, Don Robson, who did basically all the code. So he's like fantastically talented. You know, coder doesn't really describe him. I mean, he works at one of the leading companies, Graphcore now. But we met back in Dyson, and he's just someone who is that rare thing of is able to understand how to sort of translate design intent. So I'm kind of curious to know, how did you find the, you know, using Raspberry Pi and getting into that sort of side of things? Was that totally new for you, or?
Raspberry Pi was definitely totally new for me. I've read about Arduino, etc., those kind of projects, and I was just like, when I have the time and find the money, I'll get into that or so. But eventually I didn't, and then this needed a Raspberry Pi, so I ordered one, and your instructions were quite clear. I still had to find out how to connect. Your instructions wrote it down, how it all worked basically, and how you should make it work. And for some reason it didn't work the first time, but so I had to upgrade the files or something like that, and I had to work it out how that worked, and then I worked myself into how the Pi worked, because there's of course a lot of information out there on the internet. So I really
but I'm quite amazed at how you just sort of A, threw yourself into 3D printing, but B, also just threw yourself into Raspberry Pi, which no, I mean, you know, they're not trivial, these things. They're still quite, you know, the knowledge is, as you said, very, very good online. But at the same time, I'm just really impressed that this project sort of sucked you into those two things, which am I right in thinking have you felt inspired to do other things in Raspberry Pi and 3D printing after this, I guess?
Well, 3D printing, definitely. I've already done a couple of things. Like my wife also found out, you have a 3D printer. I can ask you for cookie cutters to bake and stuff like that. So definitely that's I use it quite often now. And the Raspberry Pi, I only have got one Pi at the moment, and it's built in my RadioGlobe. And so it's I knew they existed and what kind of thing it was, like basically just a mini computer. Yeah, with the Globe, I got more into it because it used the audio jack. The Globe used the audio jack to get the audio out, and like, well, it has Bluetooth, right? Right. But
it's a little bit of a sore point that actually at the time of recording this now with you today, I sort of realized that through people telling me they've upgraded the operating system, so they figured out so many of the bugs that we had to work through at the time. So I'm really glad that you got the benefit of Bluetooth audio, because it definitely makes it feel a bit more what's the word, integrated.
The Pi wasn't fully developed back then, the Pi 4 or so, the Bluetooth.
I wouldn't want to sort of offend anyone by saying it was still in beta, but I think, hey, so many operating systems still have upgrades and patches, right? So I'm not down on Raspberry Pi for it having a few little bugs in there, but definitely it's much more user friendly now, and it definitely works without having to do tricky stuff, basically. So that's really cool that you got it all working nicely. I guess maybe to take a step back from the detail, I'm kind of curious to know a little bit, like, how does, like, what is it that got you excited other than the technical? Because, without trying to lead you, I guess it's part of the reason I fell in love with the notion of the project was just being curious about stuff around the world. So I wondered what was your take on discovering new stuff?
Well, yeah, discovering new stuff. It was not so that I really like. I do like music, and I'm into music, but it's not that I was like, oh, I'm gonna build this so I can listen to Indian radio or something like that. But because I'm just really, I would say practical guy, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool to make this all work technical. So sorry to disappoint you there, but
no, not at all. I think what's so interesting is that there's like very different reasons people build exactly the same thing. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess you could even say, like with cars, sometimes you have it for speed, but others are sort of having it for the, their fascination with the aesthetics or the complexity of the engine or something like this. So it's not that I think, if anything, I love the fact that people have built it for different reasons.
For me, like in the first place, it was about building it, making it work, and now I've worked myself into the code and stuff, and I like to I would like to develop it a bit more. That's exciting stuff for me, is to work myself into the code and how it's written, and like I've got a few ideas to
do you want to share them? I'll
yes, of course.
This video is a good testament to who said it first, so
no, everybody can, like, I'm all for open source, so
I'm just kidding.
You can help me. No, like I've written a list. Let me see what my to-do list was. I had a first thing is like, I don't know how the list of stations is created, but do you know something about that?
So what it is that I feel bad that Don wasn't able to join on these calls, but basically I'm probably butchering his explanation, but my understanding of it is that basically he was looking up various connections between publicly listed stations which happen to have the location of where they were, and then he would then run another script that would then go find the coordinates of that and then merge them together in a big table, and then I think write them in, what is it, JSON is the file type. So the dream, and I think this is why we sort of leave things a little bit open source, is that it's not that it's a case of we're too lazy to get around to do it. It's that almost we want to see where the hunger is for things. But in a dream, there would just be like this big, I don't know, password protected Google spreadsheet of listing the radio station, the country, the coordinates, and you could basically pull that into the RadioGlobe somehow. So anyone could update it. And if they, the nice thing about GitHub that I find really exciting is maybe there would be different branches. Maybe there would be people who have different enthusiasms for different areas, and they might exist as very different worlds. So some people might say, look, we just only want talk radio. We don't want any music at all. In which case that experience will be very different to someone who says, well, actually, I just want to search the world for this genre.
Oh yeah.
Let's say it's like world jazz, like, which is definitely doable. There, I'm sure there's probably a jazz station in every city, or pop,
Yeah.
And so I sort of think that for me, that I'm genuinely waiting with bated breath to see what will people do if we did unleash an editable database.
Yeah, well, for me now, because I was just like, how old is this list? Not to
no, it's, and I mean, honestly,
but like there are quite a few stations that I came across that just didn't work, and I was like,
yeah.
okay, well, I can fix this. So yeah, I'm now in the process of fixing those links, and like there are also a few duplicates in there.
Yeah.
So that's what I was now. When I find the time, I'm working in myself into the stations list. And
so one of the things I know that when we were looking at it together, Don and myself, is that duplicates are just genuinely housekeeping to tidy those. But the ones sometimes with the dead links is it's really tricky, because sometimes the things that you think are dead, it can just be like the time of day, and they kick in because it's 4 a.m. in that country, so it's
exactly
just,
yeah, I found that out as well. Indeed.
So it's tricky that we didn't want to write a script that killed it if it didn't get feedback. So we almost need to write a script that, I don't know, every hour just goes, hi, is anyone there? And if it says, nope, I did a 24-hour loop and no one ever picked up, then I kill it. So I guess that would be the dream, to write a little bit of, a script that did that sort of, AI type work.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, it's just been one of those things where I'm sure I don't have to tell you because everyone knows it. But yeah, this year's been a bit of a crazy one, so we haven't always had as much time to dedicate to the housekeeping of it. But yeah, I would love to know a little bit actually what things you think would be really cool to develop next.
I don't know if it's really cool, but like to develop the stations list. But then I was not working on making it like I only want to for jazz, but just making a good stations list where all of it works basically. And then since I got the audio working over Bluetooth, that's not fully developed yet, I would say, because now I can only connect to my Bluetooth receiver, and when I want to work over the audio jack, I have to go back into my Pi, change a bit of code, and also when I wanted to connect to a different Bluetooth device, then I also have to change something in the code, like MAC address, etc.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, it would be cool if I make the middle button or so from the Globe a menu button where you can just search for Bluetooth devices and select audio source.
I guess this is one of those nice things where, dare I say it, it's one of those funny sort of things between the sort of designer role which I had and Don doing the code. And if you notice that there's a jog wheel, but if you press it, you also get a click. So it's a bit like a car stereo. And so we kind of thought, we don't quite know what people are going to want most, but the intention has always been to make it into a menu. so that if you press the button, it'll go into menu mode. And you're completely right in that it would be great to say, menu, Bluetooth, would you like me to disconnect or pair, and then select.
Yeah.
The bit that's really stumped us though, because Bluetooth is reasonably helpful, that you could say, hey, connect to Bluetooth speaker, whatever, and you can just say yes. It's not a high security thing. The problem, I'm sure is that also if you change Wi-Fi, then you have to go into the proper detail of it. Whereas it would be great if you could just go through it and say, okay, connect to the Wi-Fi. But then, of course, you will have that slightly tedious thing of scrolling through all the alphanumeric. The same way when you do sat nav in a rental car and you're like, oh, this is taking forever. So unless it magically also happens to develop voice control for a microphone, then I think that'll be the slow, painful way to do it. But I love that your point, because it's really about provoking the idea of like how to dial in the little irritations and just make them better. So I love open source for that.
Yeah, and the other idea, but it's like then the design has to be different. I think was like I remember my grandparents, they had a globe, was a bit bigger than the RadioGlobe, but and they had a light in it, and I found it as a child. I found it so cool. It was just glowing, and you could just spin it. And well, anyway, so it was, and I put before I installed it, I just did a white LED in it, and I was like, oh yeah, that works. That's cool, but like, yeah, to put a light in it, but then it's really a bit difficult, because your shaft has to be like the rod has to be hollow, I think, to get the wires through or so. And then
I hadn't thought about that. That's a really nice point, and you totally taken me back to like a similar memory of there was something quite beautiful about having something backlit that then had writing on it. That really does remind me. I guess the only thing thinking off the top of my head would be that potentially you could, the metal rod that we use to connect it, in theory you could, cut that and put an insulator between it, and then almost use it as a positive negative connection and house something. But I think that's getting quite advanced, and I wonder whether the simplest thing would be almost to sort of cheat a little bit and just thread in like an LED on a wire through the top and basically do it that way. But yeah, I kind of love that. I think someone, maybe yourself, will ultimately sort of find a way to do this, and it's always going to be that ingenious thing of that I would never have thought of doing it that way, and I think that's what I love about the project, is that for me, I guess it's like they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. I feel like iteration is as well, that someone taking this beyond what I could do is super exciting. So
for the rest, like little things like the I think you mentioned in one of your videos, I followed some of your video vlogs from making the RadioGlobe, and like with the display of the RadioGlobe is now just full on in your face, basically.
Oh man. Did you see my little comment that I figured out how to turn the light off?
Yeah. So, but like, there must be a way to I mean, I've read a bit about the display, and it must be controllable also with a menu option to turn down the brightness. And then the same was with like some station names are quite long, and then make it scrolling. That's just tiny features like that. And for the rest, I have then when you press the jog wheel along, then you have the option of shut down or cancel, and the cancel button doesn't really work because then the bug I need to fix the bug.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably also one of those things of like, I probably didn't use the cancel button very often, right? So it probably just didn't get tested. But that's a really good bug check I should take a look at. But yeah, the shutdown thing is like one of those things that I actually got into a discussion with someone, should we say, reasonably expert in in the Raspberry Pi world. And it basically comes down to the fact that if you want a really, really cheap computer, which Raspberry Pi is, having the ability to be in a standby mode and then power up and then power down, that's actually quite a lot of cost. I hadn't appreciated the, should we say, real world considerations. I think I take it for granted that my hi-fi has all that, but of course a hi-fi is able to absorb the cost of that circuitry. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion right now of like, what is the cheapest hack to do a soft shutdown and a power up without having to disconnect or switch it.
Yeah, and I thought of a reboot function as well, because when I update my stations list now, then I have to reboot it.
So what's your thoughts on updating the stations list? Do you think it would be possible to have like a, it looks to a GitHub repository and that file is itself a updatable database from, should we say, a less complicated interface that anyone could say, hey, you're missing this really great station in whatever, East London or
I'm sure like there are ways in like that you just have an entry list or so, like this station, these coordinates, it's called this and this is the link, and then enter, and then I'm sure that's possible.
I know that one of the reasons we didn't make that super accessible is that you can appreciate if the company that I was working for, Design Spark, if we just released that and said anyone help yourself, the slight concern is someone might put a really inappropriate radio station link on there. So we kind of had to be a little bit more cautious. But I think in time, it's not unreasonable for even people to sort of say, look, this is a radio station that has some late night, just as your podcast, they say explicit. I think there probably should be two categories to say, are you listening to this with family or is it just yourself? And you can toggle it on and off. That for me would be a really lovely feature, because my son is 4 and we love listening to John Spencer Blues Explosion, but I'm increasingly aware that has got some explicit lyrics, and so I have to sort of quickly skip when it gets to certain parts of certain songs. So it's a tricky one.
No, definitely some ideas there. And on the bottom of my list, but it's not my idea, because you mentioned it, and I think someone else gave you the idea, the Shazam button.
Like fabled Shazam button. I mean, honestly, I it hasn't been easy to solve. It's a tricky one.
No, it's like major. It's a major thing. It's also on the bottom. I don't know. It's like, because it needs a microphone. That's only the first step already that can listen. And anyway,
So out of interest, does it need a microphone, or can it read through the Pulse audio, do you think?
It's a good question. I don't exactly know how Shazam precisely works, but like normally it listens to your audio file and it takes bits and pieces of that audio file and recognizes it.
I was really hoping it could listen in a digital way, because otherwise my slight concern is that we'd have to build in quite a bit more intelligence to make sure the microphone was super secure, because otherwise then you have an eavesdropping device. And so that was definitely something that crossed my mind, is like, how do we make it so it digitally analyzes the sound as opposed to uses a mic? But I appreciate some people might be less concerned, so they can DIY it, right?
I've definitely not researched Shazam enough and how the actual app works.
But I think the Raspberry Pi is so powerful that the idea that you could run it parallel as a separate app, and it's, as you said, just listening, I think that's completely doable. It's the fancy bit of making it super safe that I think is the bit that I just need to, as I said, I have no skills in code. So this is a bit where frankly,
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what
for
he
me it's
can
the
do.
same. Like I do have a few skills in code, but like Pi is mostly run in code like Python, and I didn't learn Python, but like I do know coding in the C language, and like all those languages are a bit alike, and so you can still if I read the code, I can still uh, yeah, know what they mean basically, and that's also a real cool bit, because I'm not as smart probably as Don, who wrote code. But yeah, somebody made it and already set up lots of things, so you can lots of copy pasting and editing then, and then yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you ever met Don, Don is just the nicest guy, and I think that's what makes him such a great coder, is that he never tries to play off that he's the best, despite the fact it's just he's always interested in just that, like the weird ideas, and I think that's what I love about these sorts of relationships now, which you see in technology, of where you've got people who are domain experts, but they play well with people from completely different industries. So I kind of feel this is what sort of, for me, is one of the most exciting bits about open source, is you just don't know who's gonna pick it up. So that was like one of the joys of meeting you. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, it was really fun. Also, yeah, making the project, and like I've shown it to a few of my friends now, and they're like, "Oh yeah, spinning it and searching. Oh, can I find something in here? I was on holiday and listened to this radio station. Let's see if I can find it," and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a great gadget and device. It's wonderful. And my children, like you said, your son loves it as well. Like, well, my children also love it. Like, oh, like, yeah.
What I guess I should just ask, actually, because it's such a strange thing that I didn't expect it to be a benefit. But did your children just pick it up really quickly? They just understood it without much explanation?
Like the oldest one, she's 4. She definitely understands and the yeah the youngest one, she doesn't play with it. She's 1
Sure.
year, and the other
But my
the
son's
one
4
is
as
3
well.
years, of almost 3 years. So.
Yeah, but I almost couldn't believe that conceptually he was able to grasp that this was something to do with geography, and that made the relevance of what he was listening to different.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't believe that he understood that, if I'm honest. But
Yeah,
kids these days are smarter than we were, probably, right?
yeah, exactly. Like when I see my 1-year-old already swiping on the phone, etc., and it's like, huh?
But yeah, I mean, in a strange way, what do you? I realize this we're taking it in a funny direction, but what is it that you think is going to be the weird thing where you're phoning your kids in the future saying, "Hey, help me with this"? Like, what do you think is going to be the big jump? Because you can appreciate, I'm guessing my parents certainly didn't learn code or any of these sorts of things when they were at school. So I kind of love to think what's going to be the leap where we go, I don't understand this.
Ooh, I don't know. That's a really hard question. It's got to be something with social media, maybe. I don't know. Like that's a bit before. Well, no, that's not true. I've used social media, but like I can see like yeah the children that are now like 18 or 20 or say in the 20s, they use it so much, and in a way like that I'm like, oh, is that interesting? So but um but yeah, I don't know how that will develop, etc. But yeah, that's
Yeah, it's kind of strange, because I think when I look back at the project, I can't pretend to have like seen all the things in it that sometimes people are then laying on top of it. But it's sort of, I knew it was nice not to use a screen, like, so you mentioned so much of social media and the swiping and things like this, and I kind of like the fact that the Raspberry Pi is completely capable of running a touchscreen with like really good definition.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course we sort of thought, oh, you know, maybe we could, you know, visualize something or play a video or something cool. But actually it just sort of felt like there's something nice about just enjoying the audio experience without too much visual.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, and it keeps it simple. That's also yeah.
Yeah.
Then some people understand.
Cool. But no, thanks for entertaining the sort of slight digression there. But I really appreciate your time this evening, and thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
It's a real
Yes.
pleasure. Well, I'll see you around, and
Yeah, see ya.
definitely keep us updated on any of the other iterations and ideas you have as.
Yes. Can I ask you? I don't know how many questions, but I have, I think, one question at
Oh
least
yeah,
from.
sure.
Oh,
I was feeling bad that I was taking your evening, so go ahead, man.
no. You can we can chat if you want, because I'm free. But like I've got the RadioGlobe here. But like I
Yeah.
was wondering what made you this. Yeah, it's really hard to see. But there's this thing, huh?
Yeah.
What was your idea behind it?
You sounded like you was like, what were you thinking?
No. I've put it together, and I was like, what? There must be something about it that.
it
Was it?
basically, you might have a better suggestion, but for me it was to do with um basically when you slide in one of the components, if you had included that little piece, it basically gets in the way and is just really stressful. And so I was trying to make it easier for people to assemble and disassemble,
Mm.
even if in fact it was sort of, you know, slightly less visually perfect, should we say. So it was kind of a balance between, do I make it hard to assemble but aesthetically cleaner? But as I said, I genuinely wanted people to like feel that they could take it apart and put it back together really quickly and keep changing it. So
Oh yeah.
that was the concession. I guess if you've ever taken apart any Apple products, you're always sort of thinking, oh my god, am I gonna break it? You know, and it's like you're like 5 screwdrivers prying it apart and pressing this thing, and it's like
Yeah.
madness. So I kind of didn't want it to be like quite as stressful as that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
I love that you picked up on that.
I was like, why isn't it yeah, designed with on it on the big piece already? But
So
like,
yeah,
okay.
what other weird things were strange or maybe fun to put it together?
Um, Let me think. Um, yeah, this I like soldering, so like that was fun. I didn't do that for a while, so it was fun bring my soldering station back out from the shed, and but I will check the bottom and see what. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but I just ordered the exact same parts as you listed on your Instructables,
Yeah,
etc. I
yeah.
didn't do anything strange or so. Yeah, I made it exactly the way you made it, or at least the way you made it on the Instructables, uh,
Yeah.
with the Pi head, etc. Um, yeah, and those brass inserts are of course brilliant. Like it's really fun to work with.
They're quite addictive after a while. You're just like, oh, it's just going in, and then it's just, I don't know. I think I picked that up when I worked at Dyson. That I remember one of the engineers being like, I can tell a good prototype whether it's got brass inserts or not. And at
Yeah,
first, I remember thinking like, you know, surely this is just like a sort of bravado or flexing some sort of skills. But you know, by the time I was sort of working on projects where I was disassembling and reassembling, you know, vacuum cleaners for acoustic testing, you're doing this like maybe, you know, 30, 40, 50 times. And of course, if you're doing that in plastic, the thread just gets destroyed. Doesn't matter how
Yeah.
careful you are. So actually brass inserts, I sort of realized, yeah, when you think you're going to make a lot of adjustments, they're just the best. So it's funny how the simplest things sometimes lead you to really nice little touches in a prototype.
Yeah, and I'm definitely now like I in the past, like when I was working in the theater, I had to design a lot in AutoCAD.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely now, the things I've printed now were just pre-made STL files, but now I'm like, that's also going to be a next thing, of course, to design stuff myself. Would love that, to get into a bit of that. Yeah, but yeah, with the brass insert, like I've ordered only one globe. Like everything, I didn't order like a lot of it, just what I needed.
Yeah.
And I saw your instruction on those brass inserts and stuff like that, and I was like, and I think you even said, like, if you've never done it before, I practice on something else or so. And I heated up with the blowtorch one of those things, and it must have been so hot. So melted through the globe instantly, but that was the first thing I tried it on. So stupid, but
okay. I guess I did say that, but I kind of feel that you must be a true engineer for not trusting the instructions. I think I'd be honest and say I'd probably have done the same,
Yeah, yeah, but then I was like, okay, this was too hot, and then found my way. Yeah, and like I read a bit about the RadioGlobe on the internet. You can just search for RadioGlobe and comments and stuff like that, and I see a lot of people writing, "Oh, this is so cool! Can I have one?" and stuff like that. And then I saw you reply on a few, write me a message. So do you make them also for other people who want them, or how does it?
Yeah, that's been a funny journey in that it's not a case of like I think some people wonder whether I'm being very decadent and just leaving money on the table, and the amount of people have been like, you should patent this, and I'm like, no, really, this is like quite it contains a Raspberry Pi, which anyone who's worked in product design realizes that's just going to eat a big chunk of your margin if you're trying to keep the price below. And most people, as you might have noticed on Reddit, I sort of polled them and said, oh, how much would you pay for it, and like the best is really like $100. So Raspberry Pi being about, I don't know what it is in the States, but probably like $55-$60, it basically doesn't make it viable at that level. So it'd mean I'd have to design my own special board and all that sort of stuff. So it's not that you couldn't make it for $100, but you just have to be really, really committed and design it from the ground up. And in all honesty, I think I'm probably more interested in making something that is open source, because I'm genuinely, for me, it's not a vanity thing of saying, oh, I want you to tell me how great it is. It's like, no, I want you to tell me what bits I should do better and where you could do something different. That for me is the real pursuit in doing things like this. I've enjoyed making products for cool companies, and I think that that's sensible at scale. But genuinely, for me, I'm so excited to see how many different directions people take it. And indeed, the open source, if anyone watching this isn't aware, and yourself, is that if someone actually wants to create a business making RadioGlobes, they are free to do so. They just need to put a small credit to say it was designed by me, but and originally coded by Don. That's literally pretty much the Creative Commons. I think it's like an Apache license. So we're just looking for accreditation. We're not looking for cash.
No, I was just wondering if you maybe had a few spares or so, and then send them one or so. I was just wondering how many of these globes are there now.
So yeah, it's a funny question, because I'm not going to name the person, but I did get contacted by someone who was, should we say, famous enough that I'm not going to mention their name, and they were like, could I have one? And so it was it was sort of should we say not in the hundreds chunk of money. So that's been an interesting one to sort of say, okay, so it can be a sort of elite product. I guess you could say it's then moving almost more into the world of art. And so I think at that point, then I sort of go, well, in that case, I need to sign it and I need to say this is a limited edition. So I've realized that if I'm going down that route, it's better to treat it as an art transaction. And then it means you can, respectfully charge 4 figures for it. But I think as a hobbyist thing, I think I would always want it to still be very accessible, hence, sort of, but in all honesty, if someone's like, hey, would you make me one for $200? I'm like, not really, because that's probably like, $10 in my pocket.
Yeah,
just it's not viable for me to stop doing the work that I do on a day-to-day basis. But I also think that's the kind of interesting thing about the world, right? Is that if someone pops up on Etsy and is like, you know what, I got a whole batch of 3D printers, I'm gonna knock out 10 of these. I'm gonna see if I can shift them for, I think you could totally shift them at like $250. If you can make it for that price, yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
You can definitely cost down. Like, so much of the stuff that makes it expensive is because you're buying it one off, right?
yeah.
As you know, brass inserts, if you're buying those by the thousands, they suddenly get very cheap, but they're expensive
Yeah,
when you
just
want 50.
also if you probably now we've soldered like a pi head and stuff like that, but if you order like uh, those prints you made in Gerber files in
Yeah, yeah.
like bulk, then and it's
No,
also
we actually got some for the proper project for this, and they come in like literally so cheap it's not funny. I mean, if you add them to like a bigger, if you're someone who works in electronics regularly, like adding those little boards on an order, like you're not even paying the shipping then. And I won't name any names, but basically I got a second load of boards from someone who said like, hey, do you want these for free?
yeah.
I'm placing a really big crazy order, and this just basically gets to ride on the back of it. So yeah, I think that's what I love about engineers. They're just like, oh hey, do you want this? So yeah, I've got a bunch of really, really nicely done boards that were literally in the sort of $1 type price range. So
Yeah, cool.
it's amazing.
Yeah. No, thinking about the other questions I had, but can't remember them. But yeah. Do you have any questions?
No, I think I just love that. I guess it's always interesting to know sort of where people are in the world, and I guess I'm curious a little bit to know, how does this sort of, what things are intriguing for you? I mean, I know you said you didn't design it for the sort of cultural aspect per se. It was mostly the pursuit.
No, yeah, I love the way it's working, of course. Yeah, that you can just you can go up to India and listen to India, Bollywood, etc., or just Brazil, or Mexico, stuff like that.
Has there been any favorites? It's funny you mention India, because I really love Radio Mirchi. Like that one. That one's like consistently quite good. So that one's a favorite of mine, actually.
I must confess that I haven't listened enough because I was just still, when I use it, then it's just because I'm updating the list of the stations. But like, it was funny because we were like listening to Croatian radio or so. It's and it was the day Maradona died.
Wow.
And that's the only thing I understood in the news that he died. This was like, hey, and then I listened, then I looked up news in on my phone. I was like, yeah, it's really true. It's like, oh, he died. But
it's always strange, isn't it, how certain news, I appreciate that one you're saying you weren't able to listen to the rest of the report, but have you found that you've listened to almost like the same news covered in different, I mean, America being an obvious one, but there's plenty of other countries that also
yes, well, the word corona you can spot it quite easily. Yeah, but for the rest, I wouldn't know, because like my languages are not that good. Like yeah, my English is okay and my Dutch is brilliant, and yeah, German I can understand, and yeah, maybe a little French, and that's it. So yeah,
That's still a lot more than me.
it's just because I live in the Netherlands that I know an extra language.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's I think that's like kind of it's definitely made me feel very monolinguistic, you know. It's certainly sort of brought out the fascination that even if let's obviously news for me is like impenetrable, as you said, without the occasional Corona word or Maradona. But I think, you know, most people can appreciate music, even if it's being sung in a different language. There's a part of it that's universal. You know, you can
Yeah.
still interpret the emotions, and so I've really enjoyed that aspect actually of getting into those discussions with my son of like, what do you think there? Are they happy? Are they in love? You know, are they angry? And so it's sort of like, yeah, some of the Norwegian metal, it's like they might be a bit angry.
Yeah, well, it's also fun to I don't know, what was in South Africa or so. I was like heard this gangster rap or so, or something like that. It was like, oh, they make this music over here. I don't know what country it was, but like it was maybe Kenya or so. It's like,
Yeah,
so,
it's like I remember when was it? I remember watching the film Lahane, or my pronunciation of French is terrible. But yeah, like that has a lot of like, you know, sort of French hip hop, and I remember thinking like, whoa, this is just lyrically completely not what I'm used to. So yeah, I've kind of enjoyed exactly that thing of sort of thinking, oh, I thought I knew this genre, and then realizing no, there's this whole subgenre which is sort of guided by the language. And yeah, I find that like just a really lovely thing about the project, you know.
yeah, no, and like the others who made it, like the guy whose name is Chuck, and the other guy,
Yeah.
where are they from?
Oh man, so
If you
I'm,
can tell, I
I'm
don't know.
speaking to I'm sure Chuck won't mind me mentioning, as he's commented pretty heavily. Chuck was the first person who made it, and get this, Chuck is 75 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I was just like, I just couldn't, literally sort of lost my mind, because I was like, hope you don't mind me asking, you know. And I was speaking to one of the guys who's working on the project, because you can hear his voice in the video on Instructables. And I was like, oh, I think he's maybe about 52, you know. So coming in at 75, I was just like, man, that's older than my dad, and my dad is wonderful at many great things, but he sure as heck couldn't do this. So I was just blown away.
Yeah, exactly. That like the soldering part, and well, maybe the computer part, and the
Just
part,
everything,
but
just completely blew me. I mean, if I'm doing like relative terms, that level of tech when I'm 75, I'm going to be very happy. You know, like
yeah,
whether
but
it's
to
like
have a
virtual
3D printer
reality.
when you're 75, it's like, yeah, in these, then you must be really interested in these things already.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, I hope in a weird way you'll listen into like my little discussion with Chuck, as he's agreed to, like yourself, record it. So hopefully there'll be some interesting perspectives on that.
But are they from? I don't know if you can say, but are they from also the UK, or is it?
I, I'm gonna get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said Atlanta. I got it written down my notes. So yeah, this is like just so interesting. But as you probably saw in the video, he said I'm guessing he's implying he's not just lived but also worked in various places all around Africa, and he said Latin America. Like, so I kind of thought, wow, this guy he must have lived a lot of life, you know. So I think that's what's so exciting, again, to that point of some people it's about the culture, some people it's about the music, some people it's about the making. And I just feel the project just never ceases to amaze me, really.
I'm sorry to disappoint you about
No, not at all.
but, like, yeah, I was just thinking, like, no, the project itself was just really just
No,
like,
no, I assure you,
I
I
like the
wasn't really.
electronics, and then I like making it better is easy than designing it. So
No, I think it's just one of those things of like, I hope the stories will build and there'll just be people from all sorts of, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's I think it's hard for anyone to beat Chuck. That's not directed at you. I mean, I feel what am I doing in my life against Chuck? You know, it's just, how do you compete, right?
yeah, yes. And the others who made it, did you have any contact with
Yeah,
them?
I'm still in like, hey, what up? What's your diary? So I have no should we say teasers on that, but
No,
no,
yeah.
but I mean, I still think it's also, you know, for me, it's something that really pleases me to know that, you know, it's a small project, but you yourself have got a lot from it, and I think that for me is just really cool. The fact that you didn't even own a 3D printer and you hadn't done much Raspberry Pi and a tiny bit of Python, but I just love it that was still, you know, it's never mind what everyone else is doing. It was meaningful to you, and that's
I definitely learned, of course, a lot about 3D printing, and also, when I get myself into something, I just like my friend the other today, even a friend of me today also said something about when you get stuck, you don't give up even after free. If even if you fail a few times, you just don't give up. It's and that's, I guess that's true, because I just get into it and like to make the Bluetooth work. I think I started at like 7:30 in the evening or so. No, earlier, 6:30 in the evening, and then I didn't know much about it, but I just read about it on the internet and people having problems with it, and in the end, it was like it worked, but then it was 3 a.m. So it's, like That's,
but no, I love the tenacity of that, and I think it's definitely testament to the, you know, I'm glad that you found the project reasonably easy, but it's also that thing of it's built on so many people just going the extra mile and trying to figure these things out. So I hope
there's this sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's this I think it's a lady, because on the Instructable's website she's called Katie Allen or so, and she replied she said something about, do you think I can make this?
And she was like, have you got to be super techie? And I was like, no, check this out.
And she wrote to me like, hey, are you in the USA? I'm trying to order some stuff. She wrote a private message, and I was like, well, I'm not in the UK, but I can help you find things in the USA.
Nice.
I mean, I'm not in the USA, but I wonder. She already definitely had some. She said she had the globe, the encoders, and the rod and stuff like that.
Wow.
She's definitely gonna make it, I think. But
wow, that's really cool. Well, yeah, I'll have to drop her a DM in that case. If she's really struggling to find one part, chances are I've got a spare. So it's
she was, I think, just to finding some cheap sending costs or so, that they don't have to send it all the way from the UK to the USA.
Yeah. That's definitely it. It's always, you realize that you can't post a link for every country, but I'm sure one day Google will take care of that, or someone. But yeah, no, that'd be really cool to see how she's doing and drop in. But yeah, thank you so much again, Paul-Folkert. It's really been amazing.
Good stuff. I didn't in the end go on about my photos and stuff, but like you can see them on the Instructables website, and it's
yeah, I think it's just testament to the fact that you put it together like so well, and it seems to have come together really nicely. So it's terrific.
Loved it, and yeah, good. Well, fun talking to you, definitely, and yeah,
cool.
All the best to you, and well, we might.
Yeah, and at the time I see the Christmas decorations up, so have a wonderful
yes.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot.